Marnie Glickman back with us after a brief hiatus. We're having some technical difficulties, so we're not live on Hopkins88 Facebook. We're live on my Facebook. So who knows what randos are going to join us.
All about Jason.
But I hope we're live somewhere, and we'll see how it goes. It's KHOP88 though. Marnie's still in Northern California.
I'm here, fully vaccinated. Thank you for the vacation respite. I'm fully recovered.
And joining us from, now these are her words, not mine, the Golden Valley of Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah, totally.
is Kate Stelmach. You might remember her as Kathy Tschida.
Yeah, you can say that. It's okay.
All right. When did you make the switch from Kathy to Kate? And was there a big reason for this?
It was a weird thing. I had a job while I was waiting to be a controller, and it was a company out of Seattle, and I was working in Minneapolis. And then I met my husband on that job, and there were only 2 women on that job. And one of the guys that I work with said, I can't remember what your name is. Is it Sally? And I said, no, I'm the other one. And he said, Kate. And I go, no, but I like that better. It's Kathy. And he goes, well, you like Kate, I'll call you Kate. And so then he started calling me Kate. And then everyone on that job started calling me Kate. And then I started dating someone for that job. And then his family knew me as Kate. And then somewhere we got married, and it was the people who know me as Kate can sit on this side, and the people who knew me as Kathy can sit on that side. So, cool. So it just kind of, because we ended up getting married, otherwise I probably would still be Kathy, but yeah.
It's like a rebrand though.
Yeah, but you can't, nobody can find me on Facebook because I don't use Facebook very often. I had an account for a long time and didn't do anything with it. And then I did it just to start promoting the foster dogs that we had for the rescue. And so then it was like, Marnie, it took a little while. You were like, oh, that is, yeah. So when you search for me, you really can't find me. So not really on purpose. I have mixed feelings about Facebook. So
that's all right. I think we all do. And now more tonight because we couldn't get it to work.
Well, it's actually
right.
We have some hellos. Troy Finn is watching. Doug Robertson is here. People are here, Kate. For you.
Great. I found Jason.
They've joined us. Yes, right.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, Kate. So you want to give us the short version of how you found your way to the Golden Valley of Indianapolis from the Golden Valley of Minneapolis?
Right. So I went to school at Wisconsin. I graduated with a business degree. I came home and I didn't have a job, and I was living with my parents. Well, I worked at Pier 1. I worked at Pier 1 for like 9 years. And my mom said, what about air traffic control? And I said, well, that's what Lynn does. Lynn's my older sister. And it was never a thought in my head because it was her thing, not mine. I was a business person. And so then I called my sister and I said, what do you think about me being a controller? Would you be upset, that I'm crowding in on your thing? Do you think I have what it takes? What do you think about it? And she was like, absolutely. And she went through all these skills that I had that could be applied to air traffic control. So then at the time, the way to get in was to take the civil service exam, which is what she did. And then you go to the academy in Oklahoma City. But when I was ready to go, they were not offering the civil service exam. They had a college initiative program that was through Flying Cloud Airport. And so, actually, I didn't know about that. I was at a bar, some bar on Cedar, that one I like to go to. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, met a woman there and she said, go to the Mark School. And I was like, what? So then I hooked up with the Mark School out at Flying Cloud Airport, and I got all set to be in the next class, and the FAA decided they were going to have a hiring freeze. So the school said, we're not going to run the program because people quit their jobs to come there from all over the country. And so they said, we're not going to run this program if there's no guarantee that the government's going to hire you. So I waited around for 2 years, did a bunch of other little jobs because I was accepted. And if you didn't age out, then once they started it again, you could go. So I did that. And it was a 6-month program at Flying Cloud Airport. And then after that, if you pass, you wait around for the FAA to call you and hire you. And then pretty much when they call you, you take the job if you want to be a controller, because if you're like, no, I don't really want to go to New York, they may never offer you another job. So they called and offered me Indianapolis, and I said, thanks, I'll be there.
Wow.
But it really turned out to be pretty good because it's a decent living. Like the cost of living is not terrible here. So you can get, pretty decent house and so forth for your money. And it was, I think it's kind of comparable to Minneapolis in a lot of ways. So still Midwestern-y.
Well, I want to go back to something you mentioned when you were talking to your sister about the skills needed to be a controller. What are those skills?
Yeah, I don't know anymore. I think mainly you have to be able to multitask and think several steps ahead, because you need to have a plan for what's coming and have the next 5 things you're going to say ready. So if you're not good at that kind of seeing the future and seeing in 3 dimensions, you probably won't like it. A little bit of math. No matter where you work as a controller, you need to have a college degree. It doesn't have, like I was a business student, it doesn't have to be in aviation. It could be, and it might help you. It might help you decide if you want to be one or not. But for the most part, it's really multitasking and quick decision making.
So you're not unique in this regard of being someone who had no idea what trajectory their career was going to go into when we were at Hopkins High School.
No, right.
Did you have an idea in your head in high school or younger, like, this is where I'm going to end up, this is what I really want to do?
Not specifically, but I always wanted to be in business. I was in DECA in school, and I really liked that. And I worked at Pier 1 Imports for like 9 years. And I always liked working more than school. My first job actually was with Dina Barron's dad at Polaris Home Systems when I was like 15. I always liked working better. I was not a good student. I was, top-ish, but not like you guys. I was never in class with you guys. I was not smart. I just didn't care. So I just knew
many of us didn't care either.
I know. I just wanted to be in business, and I took a degree in business management specifically because it was general and kind of vague as opposed to like marketing, which I was very interested in also. And then, I graduated and sat in my parents' living room going, now what? So yeah.
Well, I do. So to go back then a few chapters, you and Marnie have known each other for a long time. Do you guys remember? We never do this with Marnie. Do you remember meeting each other? Do you remember what each other were like? Did you go to school? Tell me when you first started going to school, and tell me if you remember your first impression of each other.
Well, junior high, Kathy did not go to Meadowbrook.
Okay.
Right. I was at Alice Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys met in junior high at North Junior High.
Sure. Yeah. I would assume, I'm not going to venture. I packed all of my notes, but I have many notes that Kate wrote to me in very good handwriting during class. So I don't know. I assume it was in 7th grade or 8th grade. Probably.
Yeah, I would think so. It was definitely in North. I don't really remember meeting you exactly. Yeah, I know it was like Dina, Chris, you, me, Jenny. Jenny moved somewhere in there.
We're just always together.
Right? Yeah, it was just, yeah.
Do you remember what subject, what you guys were writing notes about?
Yes, boys.
Is that right? So standard stuff.
I'll tell you, we wrote notes about boys, friendship, we write poems, maybe, like.
Yeah, I feel really bad because I know Dina said she has some notes too, and I tell you what, I'll show you right now.
Okay.
Here we go.
I have this box.
Whoa!
Of stuff.
Notes.
There is not a single note from any of my girlfriends in there at all.
Except the boys.
But yeah, can we venture off course for a second? I have to show you this. First of all, Kyle Smith gets bonus points because he typed.
Whoa, what?
They're typed. Sometimes he's here. If he's here tonight.
Yeah. Well, he
Type,
will not
you
learn
got
that.
bonus points. But this one is Troy. Did Troy Finn make it over here?
Yes.
He's probably in here somewhere. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Okay. This is, you're a genius before your time. So this is my Troy Finn, says 4th grade.
Whoa.
And this is my favorite thing from like 4th grade, I guess. This is how you do it. This is a letter. I think we live pretty close to each other, but he sent me this letter, and he's genius. He wrote his name in the send to,
Oh.
and my name in the return address. That's
Whoa.
how you send mail without putting postage on it.
Mm-hmm.
Genius. So I got that
Fraud,
in the
really,
mail.
fraud.
I know,
Mail fraud.
that's right. So I just outed him on his.
No.
Yeah, I have a couple things from Chris Arney in here, but you know, every year my parents give me a little box for Christmas, not even little. They'll give me a box for Christmas and I'll open it up all excited, and it'll be something of mine that is still at their house that they just want to get rid of. So there could still be Marnie notes in there, but the only ones so far that have made it to this house are some of the guys.
Boy knows.
This
So,
sounds very
sorry.
familiar to me, about parents foisting this stuff off on you. This happens to me too.
Yeah.
Not as ceremonially though. They don't wrap it. They just put it in my car.
It's wrapped. I get excited. I'm like, there's a, and then I go, oh, look at that.
So Marnie, you have notes. You've saved notes too, like junior high notes. You've saved
Oh
them.
yes, I've saved notes. I have notes from Kate. I have notes from Dina. Yeah, I have notes. I have notes, not notes. I have letters from you. Yeah, I save them. Sure.
Well, we kicked the women who joined us from softball a couple weeks ago. They wanted to shut down the live because Heidi Zeke had all these notes too that she wanted to read in sort of private between her and Patty and Heather and stuff. So these notes are still around. Again, to compare our childhood to current childhood.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
For sure.
They all use Snapchat, which the feature of Snapchat is that it disappears. Immediately you read it and then it's gone, so that no one can trace it. They're not going to have any of these memories, right? Kids don't trade notes anymore. I doubt, right?
Right.
Marnie, you have a young.
Well, I'm distracted because I always find it so much harder to be with like friends than people I didn't know. No, they don't have notes. They have yearbooks still. So
Sure.
Yeah.
but mine are all packed. I won't embarrass anyone today. Okay, let's talk about your children, Kate, because Karen Hintermeister always wants to know. So would you want to tell us about your family at all?
Sure. So I'm married to Tim Stelmach. He's a controller also. We are both retired. We have a 19-year-old who goes to IU. She's a freshman struggling with what to major in. And then I have another daughter who's 16, almost 17. She's in high school. Lydia is my oldest, and she is they're both very book smart. They're better grades than I ever had. Lydia took the SAT in 7th grade and beat my score as a senior in March, my senior year.
Nice.
So I can't help, like after 8th grade, I can't help them with their homework at all. Emma's in AP chemistry now and I can't help her. They're on their own. And I took German and they took Spanish, and they make fun of me for taking German. So anyway, super smart girls both. Lydia was in marching band, and if you know anything about Indiana marching band, crazy competitive like Texas and Florida. I saw the Rosemount. Rosemount has a very good marching band from Minnesota. They came last year. We got to see them. And then my youngest is my ball player. She played softball and track, and now she's doing tech theater. She's my artist. I had her watch your interview with Tony Ceruno because I thought that might be a job that she might really be interested in. I love hearing what everyone's doing and what their kids are doing because it gives me ideas for my kids. I think, would they be enjoying something like that? But Emma is now really into tech theater. So she's doing sound design, and she's made some contact with some sound designers, some real sound designers in New York and California. So that's it. We have 1 dog and 2 cats. And
So what's it like to be retired?
it's great. I can't say anything else about it. It is great.
A few of us have talked about this idea of either, well, if you consider like sort of professional life to be your second act, is there a third act out there? Are you at that phase? Like, do you feel like you're in your third act? And how is your life now that you're not really defined by the profession that you're in? You're sort of staking your own claim.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because it's been all at home, right? Because COVID, like I retired in October, my husband retired in January, and then by March schools were closed. So I haven't really done too much. I wanted to do some traveling and get around to see people, friends from high school and college that I haven't seen in a long time. And I do want to do something else, but I don't know exactly what it's going to be. I've just tried to be open to what's in front of me and what opportunity. Maybe somebody says something that's needed in my community, and I'll think, I can do that. That's something I can help with. So I don't really have that plan yet, but I know that I'm trying to be very aware of where I can be help for the rest, for the next few years. Right now, I volunteer with the dog rescue. We've been doing that it's probably been 10, 15 years. So I'm still doing that, but I just feel like something's going to drop in front of me. And if I'm aware and, paying attention, I'll go, oh, that's something I could be helpful with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to get back to you on that because.
Cool. That's a good way to look at it, I think.
It's
serendipitous in some ways, but also like,
right.
If you are paying attention, you really know the direction you're going to head in.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
How many dogs do you have in your house at the present time?
Right now, 1. We've had 2. We just said goodbye to 1 last week. She had doggy dementia, Alzheimer's, so we had to let her go. But we have Oliver. He's a beagle mix, and then 2 cats. We had 2 cats before that, and they both passed away. So we have 2 cats that are about 2 years old, and then Oliver.
So do you foster dogs in your house or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm, we do. We haven't in a while since we ended up with 2 dogs because they were both foster failures. But now my little dog is kind of lonely, so we may, maybe take a couple to foster again. But yeah, fostering's hard, but super fun. I mean, there's breeds of dogs that I didn't even know anything about. I mean, we had a Great Pyrenees. I'd never seen a Great Pyrenees before, and I was like, she was a good girl. They were all really good dogs, and hard to say goodbye. But then you get another one,
You're right.
So they just keep coming, and it's fun. So.
I am gonna, I was just gonna say, I want to share some of these photos that Kate sent. So let me.
But before you do, I wanted to share, Kate, one of the nonprofits in my town, which is really cool, called Guide Dogs for the Blind. The campus is right in my neighborhood.
Nice.
Oh.
And they have such cool volunteer opportunities. I haven't done it because I'm a cat person right now. But they, they do all the trainings here in town, and it's just an amazing, nonprofit that has huge national impact.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see those photos. Can you do it, Jason? Or did Mark Zuckerberg block you?
This is bugging me.
Are you doing this? You're doing the cool ones,
Here we go. Here we go. All right.
Oh my goodness. This is so amazing.
I had to
that
put
is
that
amazing.
That's like the curly hair, right? Everybody had the perm hair.
Remind us who that is.
That is Nicole, I think her name was Drake. Does that sound right? She was a state officer for DECA, like the year before me or 2 years before me. And then I ran and was the state treasurer for Minnesota DECA.
Oh, nice.
So that, I think that picture was probably like in my little brochure or something.
Sure.
And I was tan because I worked at the tan line in hot water.
Yeah.
Got my good skin cancer there. That is German class with Frau Perry.
Okay, so I have a question about this. Why did you take German?
Didn't we have to take a language?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, both my older sisters took German, and
Okay.
our senior year, my sister was in Germany. Actually, she was in Salzburg studying abroad. And so I guess I probably just did because that's what my sisters took. And TSCH, Tschida, is kind of German. TSCH is very German. So,
Okay.
and we always sat, Frau Perry was never varied. We always sat in alphabetical order, sometimes starting with A and sometimes starting with Z. So if you see me, I'm in like a plaid dress there above Matt Hockett.
Yes.
The girl next to me is Jill Underdahl, and we were together for every year in German because it was Tschida Underdahl, and she would either be in front of me or behind me, depending on what she did.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody loves that one. I think.
Let's just, a couple of things to note about this. Obviously, that's Eric Rarup and his hair. I don't know if do we know the story behind the bugles and the easy cheese? Maybe we.
I don't know who brought it. That was just, the party at the end of the year or something. And I can't remember if he brought them or he loved them, or I'm not sure, but
that's a fantastic photo right there.
That one I think is already on the website. This one was the trip in like 9th grade to Washington, DC. So this was probably north. I don't think they shared. Did they, Marnie? I think it was just north.
It was just us.
So that picture is in there because, can you see in the middle, do you see Stuart Limburg?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the only one looking at me. And so I love that picture because everyone else is looking. Is that Stephanie taking the other picture? Is her name Stephanie? I can't remember. I'm so sorry if you're watching.
Hard to tell.
Stephanie D.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. So everybody else in her picture is looking at her, except Stuart is looking at me. And I just like that one.
That's
And
great.
is that Jill Kopstein?
Yes. Yep. She's in there. Yep. Right next to him.
And to remember.
And Karen McIntyre, I think.
Some celebrities there. Yeah. I think, is that Pat Delaney next to Stu?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great shot. So that's in Washington, DC. That's good.
Just fun. That is Lisa Turner. That's my parents' house. That picture is no longer there, but the walls are probably still blue.
Those are some curtains right there too. That's definitely some 80s curtains.
Yeah, that's mine. Yeah. And
okay, here's the one that Marnie wants to talk about.
that is the Grand Canyon in a dress that I got for $5 at Pier 1 Imports, that I bought it because I thought it was the ugliest thing, that it should have been like a Davenport cover, as my grandmother would say, because it looks like a bad couch. I loved it. And that is me and Matt Geist at the Grand Canyon.
Maybe a little overdressed and underdressed for the Grand Canyon at the same time there.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Super fun trip. That is Alice Smith. That is Mr. Larson. He's over on the far right. Mr. Larson's 6th grade class. And there's lots of familiar faces in there.
For sure.
Who's wearing the Astro t-shirt?
That's Stu again.
Stuart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Paul Roxwell is next to him, and Todd Rothman. Yeah. Alan Pearson's in the back there.
Yep.
Speaking
Good look
of our
on Al.
friends no longer with us, right? Alan, love him. Yep.
That's a great shot there.
So that was fun, yeah. Speaking of more friends that we love, Nana Werner's in that one.
Yeah.
Those were, when we had the Polaroids, were fun to just take.
Yeah.
Get your instant, What, Marnie?
Look at Jamie.
I know. Jamie. I went to South Dakota with her. We had a fun trip. Everything brings back all kinds of triggers, all kinds of little memories. Yeah. I think that was like junior high. My favorite thing about this picture is Kathy Russett's wearing that volleyball players with better passes when we went to see the state representative.
I remember those sweatshirts.
I do too. I just think it's great that we're going to meet this professional lawmaker and we're making these little jokes about passes.
This is great. The dudes in this photo are not doing a great job of representing the gender.
I don't know.
As many of us would be in 7th grade or whatever, but the women look very nice and professional.
I don't know. We got a button up shirt there, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know who everyone is in that picture. Just Kathy.
Anyway, you're getting a sense here at this moment, guys at that age who are like, what do you mean, what do you mean you don't want to hang around with us? Like, what's our problem? And girls are like, give me a break. Are you kidding me? And then here's Aaron Larson.
Yeah, I love Aaron Larson. He's one you can finagle to get on your show. I lost track of him. That's in Boston. When I visited him and Christian, they lived together in Boston in my first year in college, maybe 2 years. Funny. So I went out there to visit them, and I just like that picture. He always just dressed really great, and I love that hat. So
yeah, he had an individual style for sure. He's around. I'm Facebook friends with him. We'll have to get him on the show.
Yeah, love him. There's lots of people. Now that you guys are doing this, I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this person. I've got a list of like 20 people that I can't wait for you to get to. So you better add Thursdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
We're roaring in here. Well, so speaking of school, so we have to ask our stock question. So is there a teacher, Kate, that really you remember that influenced you? It doesn't have to be from high school.
Well, from middle school, I liked Jerry Graff. All you Peter Graffers, right? I was not very good at judo. My sisters made the extra class that you were invited back to, the advanced class at the end, like Marnie was.
Yes.
I was not that good because I was not confrontational. I didn't ever like having matches with people. So I barely passed the class. My sisters were both masters of it. But I thought Jerry Graff he taught math, and he just had a very almost dry sense of humor. I remember one day somebody didn't have their homework done. I think it was maybe Brian Olson, maybe. And he just walked up to him and he stapled the assignment to his clothes. You can't do that anymore. He just walked up, put the paper up there and went and stapled it to his shirt, his sweater, so that he wouldn't forget to do it. I really liked him a lot. I would go to his set a lot. Remember, Marnie, in ninth grade in middle school, we had set.
Yes.
You had 1 free hour and you could go to whichever one, which I think is genius. And I wish schools would do that today.
And you
supervised elective time.
Yeah.
And schools have it, but they call them all different things. My kid
our high school has you can have a study hall, but you can't go anywhere you want to get help. I thought it was just brilliant. So if you needed help with science, you would go to the science set. Or if you were just running late, you went into the closest one. The bell's going to ring, you pop in the closest door possible. But I remember Johanna Knudsen was very smart. She took math at the high school. Yeah. And she would be in his set a lot because he would help her with her high school math. And I don't know. I liked him a lot. But as far as influencing, I would probably have to say Greg Olson because of DECA. He spent a lot of time with me. My junior year, I was in marketing, and he talked me into running for state. And then once I won, we had to go out to different schools and talk to different chapters. And it was the first time I was on stage at a big theater. So getting over some of those stage fright things and being able to make a presentation to judges, all of those things I think are very important skills. So for high school, I'd have to say Greg Olson.
So he was like a business teacher, right?
I took marketing. I took marketing from him, and then he was the DECA advisor. So we did some competitions with them.
And what uniform? Can you remind us of the DECA uniform, please? Did you have a
I didn't send you that photo, but I have one. Oh, hold on.
I really like hearing about the outfits.
I don't know what the local did. The state, we had a blue blazer. I got so much junk in this pile here.
It's great.
I don't know. Oh, right here. I told you I had little stuff hidden around here that you'd find. You had a blue blazer with a white blouse, and then this was the pin that was on the lapel.
That's nice.
It broke, so it's taped.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's neat. I remember those blazers being hung up in the business area.
Yeah, I don't know I was never a local officer, so I don't know, if Hopkins had a specific uniform, but I had a blue blazer, and we had these weird scarves, like the silk yellow scarf. Yeah.
I didn't
Funny.
get it. Yeah.
Well, the other question we ask everybody, and you may have already answered this, is what you've been doing during the pandemic that you have picked up. And at this point, like people must be almost professional at the hobbies that they started a year ago, right?
I know, I'm like still knitting. So.
Yay! Is it the same project, or are you on a new project?
Oh no, I'm just like knitting like nonstop, except when I'm on the show. How about you, Kate?
Very
what
good.
are you doing?
I don't really have a new thing per se. Some of the stuff that I did was more on my list for when I retire, not so much because I'm at home for the pandemic. I did, like a lot of people, I went through my basement storage room, which is how I ended up putting all this stuff in this container. I did decide that I wanted to do not calligraphy, but like lettering. So I ordered the stuff for it. I just haven't gotten around to starting it. And then I also am trying to do more with my family tree. So I've been kind of working on that a little bit over time. I did like the 23andMe, and I went ahead and did the ancestry. I have a friend. What?
I was gonna say, what's one interesting thing you found about your family tree that you would share?
Well, I haven't really done too much because I wanted to retire, and then because the ancestry, it's expensive. You have to pay for a subscription, and I thought I don't want to pay for it until I really can sit down and work on it. Yeah. And I just got a bunch of stuff from my mom that I'm flattening out, and like some of it is property taxes from sucks. Stearns County? Is that like St. Cloud? It's Stearns County, and it's like 1885, and it was like the property taxes were like $1.25. It's crazy. So I have a bunch of those, and then I have a journal from my great grandmother, which was in 1887, and it's handwritten in pencil, like it looks like it's pencil. So I got to try and figure out how I can like get that scanned properly. Like I need to go to Salt Lake City probably and get some help from the library out there, so that I can get it archived properly, because my grandfather, I think, was like one of 9. So her journal, so it was his mother. So there's like tons of me's out there that might want to see it, but I actually have it. So I got to figure out how to get that.
You should
properly.
You might be surprised about what's on ancestry.com already. Have you done it, Jason?
No.
I did it for 6 months. There is, for my families, there was so much more scanned than I was just shocked.
Yeah.
It was surprising.
Yeah, my husband's uncle has done a lot. He's gone back like 7 or 8 generations to like some Russian nun who got knocked up by one of the family members and is not a nun any longer. So he sent me a thing, and he said, hey, whenever you're ready, just let me know and I'll link you to my stuff. So I'm not really too concerned about his side. I need to do more on my parents' side. But yeah, there's a lot out there, and there's a really good library up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, for genealogy also. So I'm trying to get up there. But otherwise, I've been trying to make my own paper crafting cards, just send people mail again a little bit, instead of, I'm kind of tired of like happy birthday text. I mean, that's great. I'm glad you're thinking of me and stuff, but like Facebook, they put it out there like it's so-and-so's birthday today. If it really is, because I have some friends that don't put the right birthday, and then I giggle because there's like 100 people that go happy birthday, and it's still a nice thought, but I'm like, I kind of want some hand, like we were just talking about having things from years ago that are handwritten to people, and I thought I'm gonna try and do that. So
cool.
That's a good idea. Yeah, you mentioned the journal, and I wonder, because now it occurs to me a year later, a journal would have been an interesting thing to do during this year, even though that's sort of like the last thing I really ever wanted to do at the end of every day is like write down what happened, but it would have been a good idea.
Well, something I did accidentally before the pandemic is I bought this journal, and it's called 1 Line a Day.
Mhm.
but it's for 5 years. So each day has 5 entries, and you can put the year. You don't have to do it every day, and it's so low pressure, right? That there's no excuse not to write a sentence.
Right, right.
So I've been doing it, but now
Oh.
I'm seeing what happened last year in the pandemic, and I'm just like, oh.
Does it have a prompt, or you can just write
No
anything you want?
It's just one. I mean, the prompts would be something I would appreciate, but this is just one sentence.
Write anything down. Yeah, yeah.
But
Have you done any of the ones where it's like you and your child?
Yes.
To like lead stuff for you? Those would be fun too.
Yes, until they become teenagers. It's more special.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're surprised by our kids that they're more interested in stuff like that than they give them credit for.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
yeah, when they get older, they might want to go back and see what snots they were.
Well,
Kathy, Kate, do you have anything
Yeah.
that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
Does anybody care about air traffic control stuff? Or no? I don't care.
no, well, it's so interesting. I was telling, it's really, I get more distracted by friends like you. I feel like I haven't been a good questioner. I've just been looking at your sweet face. Okay, I would like have one question about being an air traffic controller. So,
Mhm.
what's it like? Like, what's a day like? I mean, is it stressful?
Some days, yeah, sure. I mean, everybody has. Oh,
I'm going to share the screen
Yeah.
and show some of these.
I mean, I
photos
don't
here.
even know what to say. It's so overwhelming to think like,
okay. So
is it a good job for other people? I mean, I don't even know what question. I've been thinking for 3 weeks. What am I going to ask you? What
Can you
is
go
this
back?
photo?
Can you keep going all the way back, Jason? I don't know what order you put them in, but yeah, keep going to the back.
Ooh, I think this is the first one I saved.
Okay, so this is the United States with the 20 centers. I worked at a center, not at a tower. So when you're at the airport and there's someone in the tower, it's not me. When you're done talking to that person, you get handed off to me. I work a certain piece of airspace that might consist of several states. So that is how this country is broken up. If you can see Indianapolis in there, that is the piece of airspace that Indianapolis Center works. So next slide, Jason. Okay, so that then is Indianapolis Center that you saw on the big map. And that is divided into different areas within our building. So you specialize in an area. So in this case, they're kind of color coded. We had 7 areas in my building. When you go and you start training as a controller, the first thing you have to do is know your maps, which is why I put this in here in case like anybody has a child who thinks they might want to be a controller. This is the first step. Like after you go to your whatever basic process to get hired, you go to your facility and the first thing you have to do is memorize that map and the next page. Every single thing on there you have to memorize and draw it for memory. You go in for a map test and you get a blank map with the outline of Indianapolis Center, even if it's not your area of specialization, and you draw every single airway, every single nav aid, every single degree, every single mileage, every single label, every single thing you see on there, you have to draw.
With a pen?
Pencil, yep.
Do you have a ruler?
Everything, yep, you can use a ruler.
Okay.
And
But
so
every
those
degree,
lines
every
are,
heading, everything.
those lines are actually like where planes fly through these areas.
Yes, they can. To me, they're like roads, right? If you're looking
Yeah.
at a road map in the sky, and at one point and you can see like in the green section, kind of on the right, there's like a little circle. There's like a little nav aid and a circle around it.
Mm-hmm.
So airplanes used to have to use those. So that's why they would fly from one of those navigational aids to another. And you might even see them like around your neighborhood. They're still out there, some of them. They might be decommissioned, but they might physically be standing there. And so that's why those routes are there. And then all those little degrees, they would be headings that they would come off of because, you know, before there was radar, they actually used non-radar and they gave them degree divergence. So they would follow a heading out. So those are all jet routes and airways. The first map was a low altitude. So it was 23,000 feet and below. And this map is the high altitude. They're not exactly the same. They lay over the top of each other on that, like on the Indianapolis Center boundary, but your airspace for your area might not be the same. So like I worked that purple area in the middle, and it was a very small area on the low map. So you would come into work and you would go, and once you were done training, it takes about 3 years to get trained. Well, it took 3 years for me. I don't know if that's average or not, but, and then once you come in, you would just go and work. We did it as whoever was in the longest was asked first. So you'd go in and you'd go put your name in and you'd see who had been in the longest, and you go to that person and you ask them for a break. And it could be at any one of those sectors. We had 7 sectors in Area 7 that could be open or combined into 5 or 3 or any different kind of combination. So you would just sit down and take over for that controller, the first controller that said they wanted a break. If you were training, you know, then you keep training at the same sector all the time. But so first step is memorizing all of that and learning all the rules. What's the next picture, Jason?
Yeah, let me see here.
So this is just for fun. This is equipment that has been around forever. It was what the air traffic controllers in 1982 went on strike over, the PATCO controllers that were all fired by Reagan. They went on strike because this equipment was old and they wanted better equipment. It's against the law to strike against the federal government. We all make a promise and swear to it when we're hired and that we will not do it, but those controllers did it because of that. That is the same exact equipment that I started on in 1997.
Wow.
We were still using that, and they would just go out, and you would have to have the controller next to you, pull up your airplanes and like look over at theirs and look through their airplanes to see your own airplanes to keep going while they came and swapped one out. So that's not what we have. This is what we have now. This is not my facility. This I took from a NATCA website, which is the union's website, but they're all generally built the same. So this is what we use now. This is what I worked with most of my career. The guy in the red is the radar controller. The guy in the hat, like the blue hat next to him, is the radar associate. And that screen in front of him has all the flight plan information for all of the airplanes that are going to be coming through his sector. And then the guy behind him, behind the red shirt, that's a training situation. So he's the trainer, and he sits with the guy in the red shirt until he's put in all of his hours and passed all of his check to work by himself. But that's what I worked with. The 2 little screens on the, like underneath, in between the keyboard and the scope and the radar screen there, those are communication lines. So if you want to talk to another controller or another facility, or it's basically ground to ground communication, you can click on that to talk to your neighbors.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's pretty much where I worked every day. This is not that scope. This is a program called Falcon, and it is in every facility. Well, I should say every center. So they use this for like playback. So after you train, or if you just want to go see what happened, you're like, man, that was a whirlwind. What the heck happened? You can go back and look at this. It's a computer generated replay of what you worked, and it is kept forever, and you can look up any facility. So like at Indy Center, I could go look up Miami for a Super Bowl rush or something, and you can hear voice with it also. So a lot of trainers will go back and they'll replay their session, and then they can really slow it down and stop it and talk about what you could have done here, what you could have done better. Remember when this happened, what if you would have taken that guy down here? It would have solved 6 problems later. Remember how I was saying you have to like really think ahead? Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you got to learn how to get out of a jam too. So, but the data block, each of those are a little airplane, and those little data blocks have all the flight information that you can get on your scope. It's not all of it, because some of it is at the radar associate position, but it has the call sign and their altitude. And you have to be able to look at that and see them in 3 dimensions, right? Because some are low, some are above each other, and some need to be turned because they're aimed at each other. So, yeah, it's really fascinating. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but
no, I think you are.
it's
funny because I've come across, there's some channels on TikTok that replay interactions between air traffic controllers and pilots when they're being mean to each other or particularly funny. It's kind of
I have a couple little good stories there. I try to be pretty much professional because it's on tape forever now. With the old system, they were tapes that were like reused every 14 days. So when you first got there, you were like, you just had to wait for 2 weeks to go by and then you were good if you said something dumb. But now it's like, it's forever, right? Just like everything else, it's forever. So this is a picture from a website called FlightAware. And I don't know if you guys use it, but you can. It's like, if you're like, let's say you're going to go pick someone up at the airport and you want to know where their flight is, it tracks every flight throughout the country. So you can watch it come across, if you're trying to go from New York to California, you can watch it make its progress and stuff. So that's the website for this. This is a picture of Indianapolis Center is in the middle. If you kind of remember the shape of it, like Cincinnati, CVG means Cincinnati. So it's like kind of the center of Indianapolis's airspace. That is from last year. And I only put it up here because Indianapolis Center was the first center to have COVID positive controllers. And so that's what happened. We had 3 areas that were affected. And so they had to send everyone home and they had to deep clean everything. So for a few hours while they did that, that airspace was stopped. So all of the traffic from like Washington Center had to go south through Atlanta Center. You can see a really thick line just kind of at the bottom of our little cleansed airspace. There's a huge packed line there. So they were super busy that day. And then to the north of it was Cleveland Center. And then my area and my husband's area were actually still open. So like going from Indy to Chicago or Indy to Minnie or out to St. Louis, stuff like that was still open. But that is the first day that COVID-19 affected air traffic control at a center. I think that's all.
Karen Hintermeister has a great question, and that is, were you working on 9/11, and do you have a story about how that went?
I was not. I was at home because I had just given birth to my baby. Lydia was born on September 6th. So I was actually at a doctor's office waiting for a bilirubin test, and I saw it on the screen in the waiting room. So I was not working. The flight that crashed in Pennsylvania, that one got to my airspace. And there were no communications. My airspace is the one it turned around in. But Indy Center never spoke to anyone. That flight, we just watched it. We just tracked it. That's the only one that got to Indy Center, and it went through Area 3. It got to my area, it turned around, and then went back through Area 3 and out. So, but yeah, the controllers got everything on the ground. It was just like a couple hours. And all those videos are on YouTube. You can see them all just go in and get quieter. It was 2 to 4 hours, something very quick. And it's like the only time it's ever happened. I mean, the air traffic has never been stopped like that. Even when we have a government shutdown, we don't really shut down. I mean, I'd love to see it happen because it would get, right? Congress would fix it in about 30 minutes because how much money everyone would lose in the industry if they actually shut down the government. But they don't. They just didn't pay us for like 36 days. So,
nice.
But I go on.
Right. Well,
I'm retired now, so
that's super. That is super interesting. It is sort of a mysterious job. I think that like a lot of people don't. We take it for granted. We don't really understand anything else.
Yeah, it is very cool. I mean, once you have there's certain phraseology that you use for it, and pilots know it. You know it. And a lot of it is kind of routine. You space for Chicago, you space for Atlanta. Atlanta was the busiest airport in the world until just like this year. So yeah, it's some of it is kind of the day-to-day stuff, but it really is fascinating because tomorrow there might be weather and everything that you did yesterday is not possible because airplanes don't want to go through thunderstorms and
No.
you have to adapt and make quick changes.
Are you a pilot?
I'm not a pilot, no.
Okay.
You had to have ground school to go to the MARC school that I went to at Flying Cloud. And I took ground school, and at the end of it, it sets you up to take the exam, for your pilot's license. And we did a practice one, and I did horribly because I didn't really care. I was kind of paying attention, but not really. And he met with everyone one-on-one when he got the scores back to see like what you could do to help, what he could do to help you and how far you had to go to pass this thing. And I went in and met with him, and I did terrible. And he goes, "So what do you want to do?" And I go, "I want to be an air traffic controller. I'm going into this program." And he goes, "Oh, you're fine then." And he just pushed me right out the door because I didn't have to take it and pass it.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, it is a great job. You might be at a tower, you might be at a center. Money is a big range depending on your airport and stuff, but it takes its toll at the beginning. Like you pay your dues up front when you're young because it's such a seniority based job that you don't get Christmas off when your kids are little because you're not senior enough to get it. You don't, get
Sure.
weekends off for the first 15 years. There's stuff you severely pay for up front, but you retire after 25 years at any age or 50. So I'm retired at 50 and it made it worth it. So,
Not bad. Right.
but yeah, if anybody has, kids that might be interested, you can message me if you want like the real scoop.
Yeah, cool. Is there a shortage, or what's the job market like for controllers at this point?
I'm not really sure. Some facilities say there's like FAA numbers. So they'll say like you're staffed, but when you're working at it, you're like, we are not staffed. So between the union's opinion on whether we have enough people or the FAA's opinion on whether we have enough people and the way they count, like maybe somebody is detailed upstairs because they have a medical situation going on for 2 years and they're still counted. You're like, you got 10 people upstairs who aren't really doing the job, but they're still counted. So, and some facilities are worse. For a long time, Oakland was really, really short. You could, if you were willing to go to Oakland, sometimes you get little bonuses for going places. Miami, I think it's Miami. Miami takes temporary people from up north to come down just for busy season, So.
Wild.
But yeah, you don't get too much choice. You got to kind of go where they.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect of that.
But you can move. There are some moves you can make. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
There's so much to talk about. I appreciate everything you've shared.
Marnie, do you want to tell us who's up next on the show?
No.
I have it up here. Should I do it?
Yeah, do it.
All right. Next week, we're stacked on athletics here. We just had the softball team. Next week, we have Jim Keen and Brian Olson, no strangers to the weight room at Hopkins High School. Following that, the football team, Eric Haugen is helping us pull together an interesting cast for that. On the 18th, we are welcoming Kate back for Marnie's 50th birthday bash.
Yes.
We still think that we still think Marnie is the last person in the class to turn 50. We haven't heard otherwise on that. No one has
challenged it. Okay.
Right.
Are you going to be at your house for your birthday or in Orange?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Hans after that. Mike joined us tonight for a short time, or maybe the whole time on Facebook. So Mike Hans is here on the 25th. Ted Sjogren on the 1st. That's in Orange. Does that mean it's maybe, Marnie?
No, it's happening.
He's locked in.
I was excited it was Orange.
Gotcha. And then on the 15th is Linda Schneewind and Carrie Silvernagel. So
yay.
A lot of fun shows to look forward to here coming up.
Definitely.
Great.
I think that does it.
This has been great. I look forward to learning more about your life offline.
Yes, thanks for joining us, Kate. Marnie, take
Be
care.
safe.
Be safe, everyone. See you next week.
Hydrate.